All right, good morning, or good evening. The time is 6:06 p.m. The place is the Administration Building, 1401 East 144th Street, East Chicago, Indiana, 46312. The meeting is also via live stream on our website. This is a meeting of the school board in public for the purpose of conducting the school corporation's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. We can open the meeting with a roll call vote or call to order.
Trustee Gibson King.
Yes, present.
Trustee Gomez.
Present.
Trustee Smith.
Present.
Trustee Rodriguez.
Present.
Chairman Argiega.
Present. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The mission statement: the school city of East Chicago is committed to developing a community of lifelong learners who are empowered to access, process, evaluate, and ethically apply information in an ever-changing global society. Next on our agenda, we have our administrators' reports. We'll start off with Dr. Mitchell.
I'd like to begin by saying good evening, everyone. And as always, I want to just take this time to thank you for allowing me to sit in this seat and serve you as your interim superintendent. This weekend was a weekend that was full of life. And I say that because not only did we have a graduation that was magnificent, we had 207 students graduate out of a graduating class of 209. That's the highest that it's been in decades. And that's a testimony to not only the hard work and dedication of our administrators, but our faculty, but even more so of the perseverance of our students. And that's something that we all can be proud of. At the same time that we were having that commencement ceremony, we also had a celebration of life that was taking place on the other side of the town. And I would like to just pause for a moment of silence for one of our cardinals that passed away, and that's Miss Brooke Pullen. So if we can have a moment of silence. Thank you. We also had, I just want to give you all a couple of stats. We have a number of foster children in our district, but we also have a number of homeless children in our district. The stat for foster care children is that if when children age out of foster care and graduating from high school at the age of 18, 2% of them go to college. Out of the 2% that goes to college, roughly about 2 to 3% graduate college within a 6-year time frame. And that's a stat that we all need to be really conscious about. We also have a number of homeless students in our district. The stat for the homeless students is that in our colleges and universities today, our public college and university, whether it's a junior college, community college, or state college, roughly 23% of those students that's in college find themselves homeless at some point in their college career. We have a number of McKinney-Vento students in our district, and I was proud to see one off on yesterday by the name of Mr. James Newsom. Now, Mr. Newsom, we know that he had his challenges or whatever, but he falls into one of those statistical categories. And last night we had one of our faculty members that shows the dedication and concern of our faculty members drive him to Indiana University, Bloomington, to make sure that he was in place today to start the next journey of his educational career. And Mr. Newsom, with that particular stat, out of those 23 to 25% of students that's on college campus today that find themselves homeless, 67% graduate within 4 years if they have support. And that support that we can give is the support from the community of words of encouragement and those type things. Now, I'll give you another stat that shows you what different support and encouragement makes, that when it especially comes from the place that they call home. 67% will graduate in 4 years, right? But we know, and that's on time. The, the rate of a college student that's not homeless, don't have all these obstacles and barriers, only 76% of those graduate in 4 years. So hopefully you see the difference that support and encouragement can make when we treat this and treat our students as part of a village, and we don't forget about them when they go to the next journey. So I just want us to really think about that, and let's continue to wrap our minds and arms and care and concern around our students that fall into those vulnerable categories. We also found ourselves being a year of firsts. This is probably the first time that we had early learning center close and open within a couple of months, and then have one go from a level 1 to a level 3 in a short period of time. It's also probably one of the first where we've had an elementary school be recognized by the state superintendent for progress and scores and reading. But then we also had a school right down the street that also had some of the highest gains in reading and literacy. First, right? So and we're in 2024 and we're still having firsts. I think that we really want to make sure that we continue this so that we don't have these firsts again, that we continue to grow and progress. Also, just one thing, we do have the Director of Special Education here in the house tonight, and 37 out of 38 of our special needs students that were seniors graduated. That graduation wasn't with a certificate of completion, it was with a diploma. There's a difference. A certificate of completion just means you came. A diploma means that you came, you did. So I just want to let that be known. And also, I just want to thank the board and the faculty, staff, and administrators that's here today for your continued support of our students. Because again, without that, we wouldn't have been able to make these gains. We wouldn't have been able to have these firsts. We wouldn't have been able to see some of our most vulnerable kids find themselves sitting today in college classrooms around this great state. And there was a number of them, by the way. Just want to say thank you. And it does my heart well to see this district come together to move our children forward. And that's what it's all about, moving forward. Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have board reports, and we have the Superintendent Search Committee.
Mr. President, I want to defer to Attorney Harris at this point in time.
Thank you and good evening. So I have been able to work with the Superintendent Search Committee, and we are in the process of finalizing some of the details for reporting out to the full board. I would expect us to be ready to do that by our next regularly scheduled board meeting. It's possible there may be a need for a special meeting, but that's where we are now. If there's any questions, I can answer them.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have the approval of the agenda. Is there any comments from the audience on the approval of tonight's agenda? Seeing and hearing none, is there a motion from the board on the approval of tonight's agenda?
Mr. President, I move for approval.
Motion made by Trustee Gomez, second made by Trustee Rodriguez. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we will go ahead with a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Next, we have the consent agenda. Is there any comments from the audience on the approval of the consent agenda? Seeing and hearing none, I'm looking for a motion for the approval of 5.01 distribution of payroll, 5.02 donations, and 5.03 fundraisers.
Mr. President, make a motion to approve.
A motion made by
Second.
Trustee Rodriguez, second made by Trustee Gomez. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, we will go ahead with a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Next on the agenda, we have old business. We have one. Oh, I think I got it right. Yeah. We have one item under old business, and that is the approval of the 3% salary increase for non-union and non-certified staff and administrators. Is there any comments from the audience on 6.01? Seeing and hearing none, I'm looking for a motion from the board on the approval of 6.01.
Motion for approval.
Second.
A motion made by trustee Smith, second by trustee Gomez. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, we will go ahead with a roll call vote.
Trustee Gibson King?
Yes.
Trustee Gomez?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Chairman Archiega?
Yes. All right. And next on the agenda, we have new business. We have 7.01, the approval of the personnel report. Is there any comments from the audience on the approval of this personnel report? Seeing and hearing none, I'm looking for a motion for the approval of 7.01, the approval of the personnel report.
Mr. President, make a motion to approve 7.01.
Motion made by trustee Rodriguez,
Second.
second made by trustee Smith. Is there any discussion? All right. Seeing and hearing none, we will go ahead with a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Next, we have 7.02, approval of the claim docket. Is there any comments from the audience on the approval of 7.02?
Good evening. My name is Vanessa Hernandez Orange, and my question in regards to travel that I see. So on page 11 of your claim docket, you have check number 115400, and you have check number 115416. Just wanted to get some information as to what that is in total, because last claim docket, you spent $27,000 in travel, and that was not asked by the board. I was hoping that someone would address that, just so we could see. With financial instability, possibly coming eventually, we just got to look at how we're expending costs. So if someone could answer that, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yes, that's coming out of Fund 684-5, Title II. That's for professional development, and that was a team of teachers that went from East Chicago to, I believe they went down to Florida for a training session. And that those Title II funds, we do find ourselves.
No.
Oh, yeah, and with those Title II funds, that's what those funds are allocated for. And it's for professional development, and actually, we find ourselves with a small surplus that we will be addressing professional development from this point forward, being more intentional about it, ensuring that the professional development that happens actually leads to performance gains with our students in the classroom. But that's what that was for. It was for the teachers at McKinley going down to Florida for a session.
Is there any other comments from the audience at this time? All right, seeing and hearing none, I'm looking for a motion for the approval of the claim docket 7.02.
Mr. President, I move for approval.
Second.
A motion made by trustee Gomez, second made by trustee Rodriguez. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, we will go ahead with a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Next, we have 7.03, the approval of executive meeting May 9th, 2024, regular meeting May 14th, 2024. executive meeting May 15th and May 18th, 2024, and regular meeting May 28th, 2024. Is there any comments from the audience on the approval of 7.03? Seeing and hearing none, I'm looking for a motion from the board on the approval of 7.03.
Mr. President, make a motion to approve 7.03.
Motion made by trustee Rodriguez,
Second.
second made by trustee Gomez. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Yes.
just if we could, just for the record, just have approval of minutes of executive meeting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just minutes is missing from the actual entry.
Okay. Trustee Rodriguez, did you make the motion?
I did.
Okay, can you just add the minutes into 7.03? The approval of executive meeting minutes and regular meeting minutes?
Correct. So I'll make a motion to amend that. Did you want me to add it myself?
Just add the word minutes.
Yeah, minutes, executive minutes for 7.03.
Thank you. Trustee Gomez?
A second.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Just as a point of order, Mr. President.
Yes.
Attorney Harris, are we required at this point in time to read the language on the preamble, basically, to the executive minutes?
So generally, that certification that you're referring to should be read into the record in the meeting following whenever an executive session was held. I know we've been on the, kind of on the track of catching up on a lot of old minutes, which I think we're pretty much there. But yeah, I think it would be good going forward, and I'll do it now as well, just so you have it for this meeting.
Thank you.
That we have that certification read as a matter of course. And that certification, which I'll read now, and if anyone dissents, they can say so. But whenever an executive session is held, we indicate when that executive session was held, and that nothing was discussed during that executive session other than the items listed in the posted and advertised notice. Do we know offhand when our last executive session was held?
Was just last week.
That is the
Wednesday.
last one. So, Mr. President, what I would recommend is, it appears from what's on the agenda that the last executive meeting was May 15th and 18th, and the certification that I just read into the record would apply to those two meetings. So if there's anyone who dissents to the certification that I just stated into the record, they can do so now. If not, then you can go ahead and take a vote on the motion that's on the floor for approval of all those meeting minutes.
Is there any further discussion? Okay. We can go ahead with a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Next, we have 7.04, the approval of the recommendation for additional stipend payments for directors for 2023-2024 school year. Is there any comments from the audience on the approval of 7.04?
Hello, my name is Donna Ivy, and my comment is $75,000 that could have been allocated towards special activities for students or as incentives perhaps for teachers, or the janitorial services are underfunded. I find it disheartening that $75,000 will be allocated to individuals for basically doing their job. Being part of a village was referenced at the onset of this meeting. If this $75,000 allocation is approved, I believe the village has been excluded. Thank you.
Good evening. I am here 100% support of the extra $75,000 given to the administrators that are here before us. And the reason being is because we, as a school district, an administration building, are working as a shortage. We do many other jobs that do not belong to what we do. not only is it as administrators, but also within the school district. If you were to know how this district is, and you would see all the extra duties that are implemented, then you would truly understand what it is they're doing. People go above and beyond every day, and I understand you should do that, but these individuals that are before us right now, in your packet, go even above that. Spend more time, more hours, more, I can't even tell you the hours that they spend here on weekdays and weekends. And I truly speak from watching them and seeing everything that they put in. I'll tell you this much, the board as itself, when I was there, asked for a lot that you couldn't get at the drop of a dime, but they would figure it out. We also have them working extra because many people would leave. So they have to pick up the slack for somebody else. And while it seems like it's a lot, I'd rather them give a stipend than put it into their actual salary so they would get this every year. Hopefully the problem gets rectified and then those individuals will actually have somebody at that job to do, and then they won't have to do it. They could focus more on what their actual job is.
Hi, Linda Randolph, 4437 Alder Street. I just want to help the public to understand that it's not so much doing their job description, it's the additional that they've been doing because somebody or some people have not hired people. Where's your secondary education director? Somebody's doing that job. Where's your assistant superintendent? Somebody's doing that job. Where's food services? Somebody's doing that job. Where's facilities? Somebody's doing their job. And so, having been in the district from August until now, I know what they're going through. I have been part of helping them. And I continue to do so, with or without additional amendment or anything, because there's work to be done. Special ed, doing several jobs. SEL plus 2 or 3 other hats. So I have seen firsthand that this is a staff that has filled a lot of shoes. And really the question should be, why are they still empty? Months and months and months. So I think that to give them additional is a small price to pay for what has been done in place of people that have left for whatever reason. And then I think we need to take a closer look at why are people leaving. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rendea Foster. I work at Central. I agree that they should be compensated for doing, above and beyond and doing other job titles. But I feel like that should go across the board. There are people on the front lines that are doing other job titles that are not filled. They're not filled. And when we bring it to administration, it's our job and responsibility to do so. Been doing it since January. You get what I'm saying? So I just feel like if you're going to do it for them, you should do it across the board because we're on the front lines with the kids, with the parents. It should just go across the board.
Is there any other audience comments at this time? All right. I'm looking for go ahead.
Jesse Caroga, 35 Parkovac, Porter, Indiana. And I agree with the comments that have been made. The only thing I'd like to just call out is you just approved a 3% salary increase. And I understand that's a salary increase, and this is a stipend. But 15,000 per, that's probably about a 10%. And I understand that's just 1 year. So I'd just like you to look at that compared to the salary increases that were done.
Yeah, I would just like to bring a little more enlightenment to that number. If we were to fill those positions that that our directors fill, we would have been out of $750,000. We're able to do it at 10% of that because these folk in the district saw that there was a hole and they needed to fill the hole. Also, those dollars couldn't be used for anything else except for professional development. And then there's some things that they, when someone goes into training, it's coming out of Title II funds. So Title II funds cannot be used for students. Title II funds is used for faculty, staff, and administrators. And I'll just read a statement to you where that comes from in the actual language. It says Title II allows for differential and incentive pay for teachers, principals, and other leaders in high-need academic subject areas and special areas, which may include performance-based pay systems. And then it goes further and said that the directors that we're characterized are characterized as other leaders. And so that is not only in the federal regulations, but that's also in our state regulations. That's why we were able to compensate these directors for the additional duties that they serve to ensure that the district continues to operate with some sense of fidelity. And I think I said at the very beginning that this has been one of the most productive years that we've had in this district in a very long time. And I just think it's a testament to the work that not only did the administrators do, but also the faculty and staff did to ensure that we were able to come out better on the other side. And I do agree with all of you that we do need to address those areas. And in addressing those areas, that means that we're going to have to fill a number of director positions. And those director positions that we need to fill will be filled, I believe, up under the next administration. So again, I just want to say thank you all for your consideration. And thank you for your diligence in looking at this and pointing out those things, because again, if you don't hold us accountable, then who will? And so I really want to thank you for the time and consideration and patience that you take every day when you come to these board meetings to point those things out. I just want to make clarification of why we were able to do that and why we did that. And it was really as out of a necessity, out of a need, and not because we just wanted to give someone a $15,000 bonus. They actually did a $100,000 job. So, thank you.
At this time, I'm looking for a motion for.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Before you ask for the motion, if I could mention something, it may clean up this process just a little bit before we request a vote on it, and that would be just in terms of the stipend itself, I'd make the recommendation that the directors sign off on basically their receipt of the stipend in the form of a stipend agreement to list out all the duties that they perform, the amount of the stipend that they're receiving, and the sufficiency of that stipend for the services that they performed. So I'd recommend that that be added as a contingency to the approval.
I just have a question about the Title II. Is this Title II or Title IIA? Because when I look up about Title II funds, it says that they may be used for developing programs and activities that increase the ability of teachers to effectively teach children with disabilities, including children with significant cognitive disabilities and English learners, which may include the use of multi-tier systems of support and positive behavioral, et cetera. So it's not just for, unless I got it wrong, me and the internet.
You have it absolutely correct. Actually, Title II is a pretty long list of regs, and that they go for a number of pages. So if you were to look at that Title II, it's probably a mini book, maybe about 40 or 50 pages. And the section that we came out of was Title II, I believe it's Section 2.
Section 2.
Title II, Section 103, yes. So, yeah, so if you want to look at that actual language, we can, matter of fact, I will get that to you, Miss Ivory. I will email that to you. Just at the end of this meeting, give me your email address and I'll email you those regs. Yeah, thank you.
At this time, I'm looking for a motion for the approval of 7.04 with the stipulation that there is
An agreement.
an agreement that is signed by the administrators.
Mr. President, I move for approval.
I'll second that approval.
Motion made by trustee Gomez, second made by trustee Rodriguez. Is there any discussions at this time?
Yes. Mr. President, answer to your question.
Speaking to
Here
the
it is.
mic.
Answer to your question, here it is right here. If you want it, I'll give this to you, and it'll explain to you exactly what this title pays for. But I'm not going to talk about that right now. I'm talking about these individuals that we're giving this stipend to. I don't know if you know, you come here, I'm not downing anybody, but I've been here. They're in here in the mornings. The leaders, the consultants, then a roundtable discussion, the principals, and they're brainstorming from the time that they get in here. Everybody has an input on trying to level up the educational process for our children. It is with the absence of so many different positions being available, and we have not put any person in that place, it's hard to run a district like that. But my hat's off to them, because I know that they work diligently. And this is not just a 9-to-5 job. They take this seriously. They don't just punch out. They take this home with them. So the next morning when they have a meeting, they're brainstorming again. Until you go into a classroom, and I challenge anybody, until you go into a classroom and a teacher asks you to read for a first, second, and a third grader, or any grade, before she gets there, the children have a lot of social emotional issues they have to deal with. But because we have such a staff that is trying to fill that gap and that void, and that the volunteers to come here, you have no idea what these teachers go through. We have not forgotten the teachers. We're just trying to fill the void right now with the ones that's leading the charge, because we have no one in place to lead the charge. So let's make it clear. We have not forgotten the principals. We have not forgotten the teachers. We're just trying to show our appreciation of how we made it through this year without the proper people in proper positions. So my hat's off to them, because I know that they work diligently and they work very, very, very hard. Graduation day, I only did not get one compliment. It wasn't for me, but it's because of them. Because some of those students would not have been able to get a diploma had they not went back through and worked diligently hard. Parents have told me some kids had to catch up. They had like 3 days to do 100 and some hours. They wouldn't be able to do it without the principals being led by that particular group of individuals and the teacher. So I'm just saying this particular position that we're giving this stipend for, it's not about money, it's from the heart. And if you're not from the heart, there's no need to even trying to even do this, because you can't get paid for something that you believe and that you love doing. And my hat's off to you. And yes, they really do deserve more. But because we don't have the adequate staff, and hopefully next year we will be able to have the adequate staff for these positions. But for now, they deserve every penny of it. From the bottom of my heart, everybody deserves a raise. And as we go along, and as we continue this journey into 24, 25, everybody will be compensated. Nobody is going to be left behind. So let's not just think it's about them. I just want to thank them for doing the job diligently and being dedicated. You have to be dedicated to do that. So I'm just saying, we're not forgetting principals, we're not forgetting teachers, we're not forgetting anybody. Right now, these were the people that held this district together in order for our children to graduate this year and for our children to have learned and whatever they needed. So my hat's off to you. Thank you very much for working hard from 8 to 9 o'clock. And they don't carry just briefcases, they carry suitcases. When they come into these meetings, they have suitcases, and they're ready to start running and to make things better for the next year. Thank you.
I also want to say something. Like Trustee Smith said, this is really a token of appreciation, and I know that sometimes we don't think of district administrators having an impact on our students because they're not maybe in the classrooms. But I do just want to just point out, just remind people, just an important statistic that Dr. Mitchell shared with us. 37 out of 38 of our special ed kids were able to graduate with a diploma on Saturday. And I think that is huge because just as a teacher, when you look at the other districts around us, there's some special ed programs that are struggling. And I can confidently say here in East Chicago that our special ed program is not struggling, and we probably have one of the, in my opinion, probably one of the best special ed programs in Northwest Indiana. And with that too, is that, we talk about a teacher shortage, there's also there's also an administrator shortage too. And these people can easily go to another district for more money. And they choose to stay here in East Chicago to help our students. And that is, that just goes above and beyond. So that's why I'm in favor of this.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to speak about these Title II dollars. When this all came about, it was not about the individuals doing all this work. It was not about that. But it boiled down to that when it got to be a question about these dollars have to be sent back because they were not spent. That's how this all came about. And so I asked, the question is, well, why wasn't the dollars spent in a timely manner that they were given to for the purpose of what these dollars was for? These dollars was not for the purpose of what they're being used for now. I'm not having a problem with what they're doing, but I have a problem with when these type of situations occur, us as a board, we didn't give them these federal dollars. The state did, and the state told them what to do. But they didn't do it. So now they want to come to us as a board to rectify something that they did not do. And they want us to vote on it. But how am I going to vote on something that I did not know nothing about until June the 5th? Here it is, June the 10th. We didn't know anything about this until June the 5th. So now you want me to vote on something that I didn't know nothing about. I'm not saying that these individuals did not do this work. I'm not questioning that. But what I'm questioning is if this was to come before us and Mr. Mitchell would have told us, oh, well, I'm going to have these individuals do all this work, so we need approval. See, we didn't give them no approval for this. We didn't as a board. So now you want us as a board to do something that we had nothing to do with from the beginning? That's the problem that I'm having with this whole process here that they're not explaining to you people out in the audience and on the TV land here. That's how all of this got started. There is some language, as you know, that reads what these dollars are for. And had they been spent for these reasons that the state gave them for, we wouldn't be having this conversation at all. But here we are, and this is not the first time that this board has found themselves in a situation like this. But they accommodated it, but now they didn't do right by one of the individuals, but now you want to do this? I don't see that, that ain't what the law tells us to do as a board. So I'm not saying that they didn't do this work. I'm not saying that none of this took place. I'm not questioning any of that. But my question to you, Mr. Mitchell, who was the individual that runs these title dollars? What department is that?
Our federal programs control the grants, the competitive and non-competitive grants for the district.
What in our district? Who runs that who's over the title dollars in our district? Who's over those dollars?
There's a director of federal programs, and I don't believe that we can say a name at this table.
But we do have somebody.
We do have a director of
Right,
federal
and then
programs.
and then these individuals, from me knowing, they were well aware that these dollars was not being spent appropriately. They was aware of that. They didn't say nothing but complain about the dollars got to be sent back. Nothing was done. Then we found ourselves hiring a company to come in here to straighten out something that we already paying somebody $100-some thousand for their job. So we got to pay these people to come in here to straighten this out. You're not telling the whole story here. Everybody sitting here wants to hear something, you know, and I'm not faulting anybody. I'm just telling you how all of this took place. So we have to be better by our community. We have to be more transparent, and we have to give these dollars where these dollars are due. And I find it very bad that and they got to send them back if they don't spend it. But you had this money all the time. It could have been used for the teachers, the kids, programs, and this and that. It could have went on. But now it wasn't spent. So now we got to rush and try to figure out some kind of way to do this. I'm not in agreement with that at all. That's my take on it.
Is there any other discussion?
Mr. President.
Yes.
I initially had reservations about this. But I want to thank Dr. Mitchell for inviting Mazi in and explaining the purpose of the title monies to us. I think it clarified things for a lot of us on the board, I think for all of us. And it gave me better understanding of what his mindset was. He and I went back a couple of times, back and forth, on this very issue. And every time I questioned him, I think his response was spot on. I was weighing this out over the weekend still. Are we doing the right thing? And I think these people have done the job. The evidence is somewhat showing in our graduation and other scores. I don't know what more we can ask of people. One of the questions I did ask Dr. Mitchell in our Wednesday work session, which people can view online, was what about our teachers? Are we going to compensate our teachers, the frontline people? And so that is something that the board is really well aware of, and we need to do a better job at that. The way this whole thing came about was unfortunate, but I think Dr. Mitchell came up with a good plan on what to do, and Dr. Mitchell, is that correct? We don't use this, then we'll lose it, correct? And that's my biggest concern, that as we're viewed upon by the state, if we're not doing right by our kids and by the dollars, I've always felt that the budget was, I don't want to say number one, certainly the kids are number one, but the budget makes things happen. So when we're talking about student achievement happens because adults are teaching those kids. So we have to compensate and take care of our adults as well. Again, I wavered on this, but I believe this is a good initiative, and I appreciate Dr. Mitchell for bringing this forward.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I do have a few words also. And again, Title II is something that we get each year, whether it's teacher professional development, whether it's teacher retention or enhancement for our students in the classrooms. I feel too that this particular program is also, or what Dr. Mitchell has given to us has been on key. Now, most programs and projects do end, projects do complete. There are balances on grants. So sometimes these balances have to go back. Now, we're not saying that the program, it was improperly allocated to the school district or what have you. But these programs have ended. This is the balance that we have. You have two choices. Either you have it go back, or think of an opportunity how we can repurpose these funds to help better our district. And what better way than the directors who don't get stipends or 3%? So I don't even remember when the last time we even given a stipend to directors. So these are things that we have to look at, especially coming from a superintendent who's here every day. We're a governing board, but the superintendent sees who knows who's doing the jobs, and it falls within those categories. So I do feel that they are deserving of the project and programs that they have completed.
Instead of us taking this money back June 30th and sending it all back, why not give it to people that really deserve it? So that's why I'm supporting it.
I just want to ask one more question now, because when this does go down to the state has the last say, so if they're going to give this dollars to these people or not, am I correct? State going to say this, not the board. The board ain't saying nothing.
Yeah, there was, any time that you make a change to a grant or anything like that, you have to do an amendment. I believe that most people in the audience kind of know what that is. So we did submit an amendment to say that, and by the way, first and foremost, these directors did the job without any expectation of pay or any credit or anything like that. They did the job. As we came to the close of the year, we realized that there were some things that were not, we weren't being good stewards of all the blessings that we had received. And due to that, we realized that there was an opportunity for us to bless those ones who were being good stewards of their jobs and the people that report up to them and the students. And so therefore we decided to create some type of incentive structure, a bonus structure for them. And that was only, like I said, at one time. But yes, to answer your question, Trustee Gibson King, that these dollars, if they're not used appropriately within the regulations and of the actual allotment from the state and federal government, then they will go back. The repercussions of them going back is that every time you send dollars back, the next allocation usually is less because you didn't maximize that. And so what we want to do going forward is to make sure that not only do we have the right people in place, but we also have the right programming in place so that we are able to be better stewards of the dollars that we received. And I'm proud to say today that we're not working on our summer programming like we were at this time last summer. We're not working on the programming for 24, 25 as we were at the beginning of this school year. We're working on the 26, 27 school year at this time. So we're going to be well ahead of the game with a process and plan in place to ensure that we're not only a good steward of our dollars, but we're also being a good caretaker of our students and our teachers and planning. Because we know that when you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And we're not in the business of failing in this district anymore. Thank you.
All right, we will go ahead with a roll call vote.
Trustee Gibson King,
No.
Trustee Gomez,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
Chairman Archiega.
Yes. Next on the agenda, we have 7.05, the approval of MOU with Starbase for Harrison. Is there any comments from the audience on the approval of 7.05? Seeing and hearing none, I'm looking for a motion for the approval of 7.05.
Mr. President, make a motion for 7.05.
Motion made by Trustee
Second.
Rodriguez, second made by Trustee Gomez. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing and hearing none, we will go ahead with a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Next, we have 7.06, the approval of the MOU with Starbase for Lincoln. Is there any comments from the audience on the approval of 7.06? Seeing and hearing none, I'm looking for a motion for the approval of 7.06.
Mr. President, make a motion to approve 7.06.
Motion made by Trustee Rodriguez,
Second.
second made by Trustee Gomez. Is there any discussions? Seeing and hearing none, we will go ahead with a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Next, we have 7.07, approval of Asset Works Risk Management, Inc., Go Solutions. Is there any comments from the audience on the approval of 7.07? Seeing and hearing none, is there a motion from the board on the approval of 7.07?
Mr. President, I move for approval.
Motion made by trustee Gomez,
Second.
second made by trustee Rodriguez. Is there any discussions at this time? All right, seeing and hearing none, we will go ahead with a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Next, we have 7.08, the approval of Reading Horizon quotes. Is there any comments from the audience on the approval of 7.08?
Yeah, for 1 year.
Right. What do we?
Yes, this is one of the programs that we use in the district. However, I would like to remove this or at least table it to the next board meeting. The funding structure, the fund that this particular program will come from does not allow for a multi-year term, but also, we reached back out to the company and we asked the company to redo those numbers for us. They came back, and I don't believe that these numbers are fair, and they do not, and they seem to be leaning towards an area where there's just, anyway, these numbers are not good numbers, and we're going to go back and renegotiate this contract. Again, there are some things that really get me really upset, and that's when I find companies trying to take advantage of our school district. And I believe that this particular company here was they saw an opportunity and they were trying to take advantage or exploit an opportunity. We're going to go back and renegotiate this contract so that it's a fairer contract that will be more beneficial to the district. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm going to make a motion to remove 7.08 from the agenda. So I have a second made by trustee Gomez. Is there any discussion? We will go ahead with a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Item removed. Next, we have 7.09, the approval of contract for support services, equipment and asset technician. Is there any comments from the audience on the approval of 7.09? Seeing and hearing none, I'm looking for a motion for the approval of 7.09.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve 7.09.
Motion made by trustee Rodriguez,
Second.
second made by trustee Smith. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing and hearing none, we will go ahead with a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Next, we have 7.10, the approval of professional services, instructor for the visually impaired students. Is there any comments from the audience on 7.10? Seeing and hearing none, I'm looking for a motion for the approval of 7.10. I'll go ahead and make the motion.
I'll second.
Second made by trustee Rodriguez. Is there any discussion at this time?
Are these just sort of repeaters from last year? Is there anybody here that can speak in regards to 7.10?
Yes, actually, all of these are repeats for the last few years. This one happens to be a part-time teacher who works about 2 days because we don't have that many students, and so she works on contract for our students with visual impairments.
Ms. Pohl, are these coming out of your dollars? What dollars?
I think these are out, yes, yes, federal funds. Almost positive.
We will go ahead with a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Next, we have the approval of 7.11, the approval of contract for professional services, clinical psychologist. Is there any comments from the audience on the approval of 7.11? Seeing and hearing none, I'm looking for a motion for the approval of 7.11.
Mr. President, I move for approval.
Motion made by trustee Gomez, second made by trustee Rodriguez. Is there any discussion at this time?
Ms. Pohl, can you give us a quick overview of this?
Sure. Dr. Caruana is a clinical psychologist that comes in and signs off on medical services. He's done this for years. It's just, he doesn't really see the children. It's more of a signing off on the medical services. Testing and different things.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion at this time? We will go ahead with a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Next, we have 7.12, the approval of contract for professional services consulting, Kenna Hoyle?
Hoyle.
Is there any comments from the audience at this time? Seeing and hearing none, I'm looking for a motion for the approval of 7.12.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by trustee
Second.
Smith, second made by trustee Rodriguez. Is there any discussion at this time?
Ms. Pohl, can you give us a quick overview on this one as
Sure.
well?
Ms. Keno Hoyle is our lead occupational therapist who does all of our assessments and works with a lot of our students with autism, helps and supports teachers in the classroom. And she's been with us for about 12 years now.
Thank you.
Is there any other question or discussions at this time? We will go ahead with a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Next, we have the approval of contract for professional services, hearing impaired and sign language interpreter. Is there any comments from the audience on the approval of 7.13? Yes.
Yes, I would like to know, are students learning this?
Actually, we have students who are deaf, hard of hearing, and they're in the classroom, so the interpreters work with the children face-to-face, interpreting what's being stated in the classroom. But at the pre-K, when they were there, they were teaching the students sign language.
So can they come on to the high school?
I think we could hire somebody to teach that, if that's what you're asking, as like I would love to have that as a foreign language. That's a discussion, I guess, with the high school.
You might not need training.
Teach kids, right? Great idea. Thank
No,
you.
I think it's good to train. The more people you train, the more people you have in your community.
Yeah. I know that the interpreter does work with the kids in that classroom and kind of teaches her on their own, but she's actually hired for the specific student who is completely deaf.
Just one point of something I would like to add. Ms. Pohl mentioned that the students at the pre-K center were learning the sign language, and at the pre-K 3 graduation that they had a couple weeks ago, they did perform a song and they did use sign language in the song. So that was very, very nice. Yeah.
That's because of the interpreters that were there, yeah.
All right. Is there any other questions or comments from the audience at this time? Seeing and hearing none, I'm looking for a motion for the approval of 7.13.
Mr. President, make a motion to approve 7.13.
Motion made by trustee Rodriguez. I'll go ahead and second that. Is there any discussion at this time? We will go ahead with a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Next, we have 7.14, the approval of contract for professional services consulting, William Binder. Is there any comments from the audience on the approval of 7.14? Seeing and hearing none, I'm looking for a motion for the approval of 7.14.
Mr. President, I'll second it.
A motion made by Trustee Smith, second by Trustee Rodriguez. Is there any discussion at this time?
Ms. Polk, can you give us a quick overview on this one?
Yes, Mr. Bender helps us with the MOE, which is maintenance of effort, and that's just, what it is that the school district has to spend as much money on students with special needs as they do on children in the general education. And there's a certain dollar amount, and you have to, there's a figure that you use Form 9 with, and you have to spend at least the same or one more dollar in order to be in compliance. And Mr. Bender has been the one to write the formula for the state. This is his last year. He is retiring. And he will just be here for support because he's teaching everybody, Leela, myself, everyone. So we will be doing this ourselves. You will not see him next year after that. So,
Is there any other questions or comments at this time, or discussion points at this time?
Yeah, I just want to ask Ms. Pohl, is all these contracts coming out of your dollars?
a lot of them are, yes.
Okay, thank
Yes, for sure, I know Mr. Bender is, yes. The VI, the clinical, I'd have to really look, but for the most
You
part,
can get with
yeah.
me, you can give it to me.
Yeah, they are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will go ahead with a voice vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Next on our agenda is public forum. Attorney Harris.
Good evening, everyone. If you could please step to the podium and state your name and your address. Your comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Please be respectful of the audience, the board, and the staff members that are present, and please refrain from discussing any individual personnel matters. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Ms. Wright. Oh, I heard you give the vote on the 3% already, so. Okay. Miss, okay. Well, no, we have to ask who wants to take a spot. Huh? Oh, yeah, go ahead, you ask me.
Good afternoon, Benita White Arnold, 4821 Drummond Street. I just wanted to say I was excited to walk in and hear about the graduates, the rate of how many kids actually graduated. So I think that's kudos. I'm still on this tansy about the superintendent search. After listening today with you, Trustee Diane saying how the directors held down the district, how well they did. And I'm like, we got a good group of people. And it came out of, how they held up the district, how they did a good job and they deserve the extra money. I think that in my opinion, that validates my thought that they were doing a great job this year. So I was glad to hear that you had said that, to give them their thanks in their face. I really appreciate that. And I also wanted to say, I know that we're under this superintendent search, and Gary has been also, had a couple of friends over there, and they were very disturbed at their last school board meeting because they did not give the name of the person who they selected. They gave all the other information. So I'm hoping that when they come to East Chicago, when you get down to your 3 candidates, that you make it a public forum where we'll know who they are. Let us hear some questions, some basic questions, what did they do at the last district? Let's know whatever your questions were that you asked of them. Let's hear their answers publicly. I hope that you guys will consider that. And I would hope that you would not keep us in the dark once you have made your selection and not tell us the name of the person, because people are upset over there in that community. going back to the directors doing what they do, they did it for the love of the kids, not for the love of the money. And I want to say to them myself, thank you, thank you, thank you. And overall, I'm hearing good stuff, but I just need to see the board move in that good direction, because you guys, you have a good group you got a good team here. You really have a good team. And I just hope that you would really seriously show the community that you hear us, that you respect us, and that you love us. If you have a graduating class of 209 kids, and you have 207 to graduate, that's kudos. That's kudos. I remember about maybe 2 years ago when those kids failed, but was it like 4 or 6 kids that passed the statewide test? So see, we're doing better. So I just hate to see you guys stop. And I just want to leave you with this: wake up. Just wake up and do what's right. Thank you.
Yes. Donna Ivy.
Donna Ivy, 4124 Elm Street. I'd like to say I don't doubt the respective recipients did an exceptional job. However, as the gentleman mentioned earlier, this is a 20% increase. What percentage could have been trickled down to the teachers who have direct contact with the implementation of the brainstorming, or what percentage could have been trickled down to student programs? Thank you.
Ms. Watkins?
My name is Catherine Watkins, and I reside at 3933 Alder Street. I just wanted to share with the board what a concern that I have been dealing with since January that I have put in a letter, and I would like to know if I can present you with this letter. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Helen Steinbeck?
Good evening, Helen Steinbach, 5207 East 73rd Avenue, Maryville, Indiana. I want to first start off by saying thank you to the board for our teacher appreciation gift that you supplied for us. It was a very nice gesture. And also the barbecue at the end of the school year was very nice to have a chance to sit and collaborate together and eat together and enjoy the last day of work. That was a nice thing to have. I'm also here tonight because as we move forward with the selection of the new superintendent, I'm in agreement with Ms. White Arnold. The guy that made it all come together this year is sitting right there. We don't need anybody else.
Hattie Gibson King, 4102 Parish Avenue. I'm here to congratulate all of our students, not only the ones that graduated, but all of them. All of them in elementary, junior, and central. They have done an amazing job with what they have been offered, the tools and supplies that they are, they don't really have. We had our student Chelsea Lott sit here, and she said something that was very important. She graduated. She did say that she was not prepared because they don't have any counselors, deans with proper paperwork. There was a lot of things that she was expounding on that the students did not have. So we did have a good graduation. I was so proud that we were all a part of it. We were all dressed up in our gowns, and that was very nice. But I'm here to talk about the junior high school. Nobody never expounds on their graduation, and that graduation should be most important because they're leaving there and they're going to Central. Now, I did get the graduation of how many of those, and I was there. I have my little ribbon on to show that I was there. And I brought my colleagues some ribbons back, and Mr. Ortega, you did attend the pre-K graduation with the little ones. So Mr. V, as they called him, he gave me the numbers of students that had graduated. And there was 157 students that graduated, but we're going to have 60 of them that may be retained if they don't go to summer school. And it's my understanding summer school is only for 3 weeks. So I don't know if that's going to be enough time, but I do hope that they have what they need in place to graduate. So I think we need to, I've never heard anybody, even when I was on the other side of the table, speaking about the junior high school graduation rate. It's always Central. And I think that we need to focus in on that because they're going to Central. And we need to prepare them for whatever it is that they may need once they get to Central. So, thank you. That'll be all. I'm the last person. Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have trustee remarks. Trustee Rodriguez.
I just have a few items to talk about. First of all, I do also want to congratulate our graduates at the high school level, the junior high school level, as well as the elementary students that are going to junior high school. I think their achievement of what they've done to deserve going to that next step is truly deserving, so I do want to thank them on that. I also want to acknowledge or recognize the efforts of our faculty, staff, and our families here for having such a great graduation, not only for the seniors, but also the ones who have participated in our junior high schools as well as our elementary level. I do want to give kudos to Dr. Mitchell as well for doing pretty much everything an interim superintendent or superintendent would do because, every comments or questions that I may have or concerns that I have, he responds very quickly, and I do appreciate him for that. And lastly, to our senior graduates who are listening in, never give up. You are now embarking onto your next chapter of your lives, so make it the best. And whether it is furthering your education, entering into a workforce, or pursuing your passion, don't stop. And if you feel like you need somebody to talk to, come back to East Chicago Central or East Chicago District because our staff, faculty, and teachers are here for you day in and day out, even after graduation. So again, thank you for that.
Trustee Smith.
I just want to say congratulations from the pre-K up until the high school. I have a chance to work with a lot of those students at Central, some that had a lot of challenges, some that were homeless. I do things, I'm not bragging, I just do things from the bottom of my heart. I don't want anybody to know what I do, but I want you to know that I do for those. It warms my heart that faculties have taken our McKinney-Vento kids and placed them in positions where, and the counselors too, whether you all know this or not, they're trying to make sure that they get into college. They paid registration fees, teachers have paid this, that, and the other. But what I really want to stress is, what Trustee Gibson made her comment about the stipend. For years, this district has been in a turmoil We've been up, we've been down. We've had different superintendents, we had interim superintendents. In the meantime, the gap and the void came in when a board ties a superintendent's hands, and they cannot fulfill the positions that need to be filled. It is not the teachers, it is not the students, it's the board. I am a part of the board. I'm not going to say I'm a party to everything that the board does, but we have to be accountable for ourselves. And we have to be accountable that we let things like this fall through the gap. And like I said, I'm never going to forget the teachers. I'm never going to forget the principals. And I was charged with something by someone to always stand up and believe in what I believe in and say it. I am a part of the board, the superintendent search. I'm still not in agreement with it, but I am a part of the board. But I can make a decision, and I think I can make a decision from the bottom of my heart, which will make me feel I can be able to sleep at night for my babies. I don't know how you feel, and for my staff. So I'm saying this to say this. We all make mistakes. And like Trustee Gomez says, we learn from our mistakes. There's a lot of things that people think that we know that we didn't have a clue. But because the lack of the consistency as a leader, things fell apart. And when things fall apart, it's hard to pick up the screws and the nut and the bolt and put them back together. But once you put those pieces together, you can begin to run and you can begin to make that machine work. And that's what I see coming for 2024-25 school year. Like I said, we're going to work on teachers, we're going to work on principals. But once we had to learn, see, we have to learn. Once we learn, it's our fault, then it's our fault. But now that we've had our little lesson about this, that, and the other, what we can and cannot do, and title monies and whatever, we can do better and provide more services for our children and for our staff. So I just want to say, don't charge our heads. Yeah, you can charge our heads, because we didn't know. But don't charge our hearts, because I know in 2024, 25, things will get better. And I hope you understand what I'm saying, because I come from here. I don't come from this. I do investigations, but my main focus is this district. Whether you agree with me or not, you're not my focus. These children are. And I want to make that perfectly clear. Whether you agree with me, that's fine, because you don't go home with me. You don't sit up and worry about how we're going to do this and how we're going to do that. I do. They do. So, but if we come together as a community, we can make this work. It can be Yogi Berra superintendent. If the board don't agree, we're right back to square one. So we as a community, we as teachers, we as leaders, we as clergymen, we as whatever our position is in the community, we need, parents also, we need you to come out and support your children. If we can make this graduation this year come to this point, it can be done again. But if we need some, don't charge some of you parents. I'll charge some of you parents, not in this meet, not in the room, but those that's listening. Get out there and help your child go to the next level. Yes, no, we don't have enough counselors. That's something that we're going to work on too. Guiding counselors, those are a lot of things, the voice that we have to do. So we're working together as a board trying to get those positions filled. But for years, the superintendent's hands was tied. So I'm just going to say, bear with us. We're going to get it right. And if we don't, you know, you all can call anyway, so I complain. So if we all work together, we can make this district a much better year in 2024-25. And that's all I have to say. I'm about the kids. I'm not about anything else. and I know Jesse's doing for me to be quiet, but I am about these babies. I don't have all of this other stuff. We're learning. You learn every day you wake up, you learn something different. And now that our eyes are open, we can't do anything but do better. So give us a chance. And if we fail, then you charge us. But we're moving forward in a better direction. Thank you.
Trustee Gibson King.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have something here from the Foundation of East Chicago, the 2024 Scholarship Awards announcements. And I'd like to read that April 2024 marked the Foundation of East Chicago's 27th Scholarship Awarded distribution. Awards were given to 93 students, 70 high schools, and 23 adults, all from East Chicago, Indiana, collectively receiving $1.9 million in scholarships. This year's scholarships were awarded to students from 6 Northwest Indiana high schools, including Bishop Noll, East Chicago Central, Hammond Academy in Science and Technology, Hammond Central, Munster High School, and Whiting High School. High school students attended an accredited institution each received four-year renewable awards or a 2-year renewable scholarship to pursue a trade. Adult students are those who are returning to college, continue their education, or pursuing a trade also to have an opportunity to receive Foundation of East Chicago 1-year scholarship. Foundation has been awarded scholarships to East Chicago students since 1998. In total, the organization has distributed over $20 million in scholarship funds since inception. Foundation is a non-for-profit organization which awards scholarships to students, grants for community programs. Foundation receives a percentage of Ameristar's hotel and casino annual revenue to be used on projects and programs that gives back to the people. So they like they say, they give to the high schools, colleges. East Chicago Central, our kids got a lot of scholarships this year. They got the most, for that matter. Then we have Hammond, like they say, Hammond Central, Whiting, Munster, and high school. So I'm reading this to say that we have to get back a good relationship with the foundation, because there are a lot of money. There's a lot of monies out there for our children. And there's a lot of things that they, as you all know, that they do, but we don't hardly ever mention them. So I'm going to pass this down to my colleagues here, because this is something that I think that we need to get back on board with the foundations of East Chicago. 44 students, my colleagues say, got scholarships. Okay, thank you. That's a lot, right?
Trustee Gomez.
Thank you. I've got a few items I wanted to address this evening. I'll start with the comment that Trustee Smith made. And this weekend, in going over the discussions that we've had regarding this $15,000 was, I really enjoyed this. I want to thank, again, Dr. Mitchell for bringing Nate Williamson here from Ozzie to enlighten the board and what we could and couldn't do, and where we were at financially. This weekend, I had engagement with every one of my colleagues, and there were just strong conversations, both for and against it, and, how can we do things better moving it forward in the future. But it wouldn't have happened without that discussion that I mentioned that Dr. Mitchell introduced Nate Williamson to the board. So I want to thank him for that. I'd also like to thank Katrina Alexander, David Lane, Principal Brown, Assistant Principal Quiroga, and David Tokars for doing a great job up there. You made us all proud. I also wanted to make a mention that Damian Jefferson, for many of you may already know, he's a recent grad. He's doing really well. He received the MVP at the BNXT, in the BNXT League recently, so congratulations to him and his family. He's a good role model for our kids, and hopefully he'll come back here sometime soon and meet with some of our younger kids in our growing basketball team. Thanks again to the East Chicago Public Library for the Juneteenth celebration. And I know we're going to continue doing the work there at the library, so thank you very much. fantastic program. It was really, really good. Really enjoyed myself. On a kind of a sadder note, John Friend, school board member from Munster, passed away recently. I know John Friend. He hired me to become a coach over at Munster High School when I was, let's see, this was about 25 pounds ago. I used to run a lot, and it was about 25 years ago too, but great guy, outstanding athletic director, outstanding school board member, so my condolences to him. His daughter is also one of our teachers. And just want to leave on two notes here. One is we were talking about Miss Pohl and the special ed program. I have conversations on occasion with other superintendents. One of them tells me, you know, whatever you got going on over there, whatever she got going on over there, she says, I try to steal your teachers every day. I cannot steal them away from Tammy. Congratulations, continued success with that special ed department. You deserve it. And finally, congratulations to all the graduates at whatever level. The school district is doing much better than we have been doing in many, many years. And thanks to everybody, all the hard workers, the teachers, support staff, everyone who service people, the security people, everyone who pitches in and helps out our school district. Thank you very much. That's it.
Now with graduation over, I just want to thank everybody for a very successful school year. With everything from our level 3 at the pre-K center all the way to this, and I'm still just, this whole weekend after I heard that the 207 graduates, I've had a smile on my face like this whole weekend. And this is just all the great work that is happening in our district. And a couple of those key people I wanted to thank, of course, we thanked our district administrators, but I also want to give kudos to our Central High School staff. So Principal Brown, Assistant Principal Quiroga, thank you. Mr. Tokar's, Miss Lee, but there's as I was hearing everybody give thanks, there was and of course our wonderful faculty. There was a couple people that were missed, and it was these guidance counselors. And these guidance counselors, this is the most stressful time of the year for them, as they're basically checking all the boxes, making sure that the kids have all their prereqs and all their recs and are off and graduating. And I just wanted to thank those counselors real quick. Ashley Comer, Shannon Dempsey, Courtney Gordish, and Eloise Nieves. Just a real big kudos for them, because those people were the backbone. Those people were the backbone of these 207 graduates that walked the stage on Saturday. So just thank you very much for a very successful school year and a very great weekend. All right. The date and time of our next meeting is Tuesday, June 25th, 2024 at 6 p.m. I will go ahead and motion for adjournment of this meeting.
I'll second.
A second made by Trustee Rodriguez. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Good night.